Hey there, guys. Alright, audio should still be fixed. I don't think anything messed up this time around. At least I really fucking hope. I better not go into editing and then find out a bunch of audio issues. Anyways, before we get into the video, make sure to go check out the links down below in the description box or in my pinned comment in the comment section. There I have my links to my gaming channel, in which that is where I'm uploading where I'm just uploading my stream videos, stream VODs and whatnot up there. And then the other thing, the most important link in my opinion, is the link to my Twitch channel, which you can catch me live Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. We are streaming a variety of games over there, currently going through Ghost of Tsushima and Divinity Original Sin 2. Would love to have you guys show up. Now, today we are watching 10 tips from Machiavelli by Fire of Learning. I do not know whether to expect this to be satire or actually just factual 10 tips that came from Machiavelli. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and just dive right in.
Hello and welcome to Fire of Learning. Niccolò Machiavelli's book, The Prince, was published in 1532, 5 years after his death. And in this video, we're going to take a look at 10 very noteworthy tips from that book. As usual, I will attempt to deliver these points without personal bias. The book was written as a sort of advice guide for politicians, specifically kings of the time. Obviously, this means taken literally, it isn't widely applicable, as most of us aren't kings. Maybe you are, I don't know, but the advice is not applicable.
I mean, we're trying to, if we go back to my CGP Grey videos, there's references to attempting to take over the world. Anyways.
Only for monarchs or even general politicians. It can be translated and utilized for a number of professions and situations, from business to social life to whatever. So with that in mind, let's get started. Number 10. Distrust mercenaries and auxiliaries. Machiavelli believed that having soldiers who weren't loyal or dependent on you was a disastrous error. These types of soldiers were only interested in their own gain or had loyalties to someone else. Accordingly, Machiavelli personally watched as the Italian states who used these types of soldiers consistently failed, and strongly suggests raising troops of your own with a mutual goal. For example, the success of your kingdom. Number 9.
You know what? I can understand. Yeah, mercenaries are more loyal to money. But obviously there are mercenaries do have some mercenary groups, of course. Oh yeah, you know what? I completely agree with that, because you cannot be entirely certain which mercenary groups are just in for the money and will betray you for a higher pay, or will genuinely keep to the contract even if someone tries to pay them more, right? However, of course, if you betray a contract for higher pay, that kind of makes you less reliable for future employment, but,
9. You can't imitate great people exactly, but you should try as much as possible. Essentially, Machiavelli believed in learning from those who were successful in history. In fact, much of his advice is justified with examples all the way back to ancient civilizations. Within a given position, according to Machiavelli, you should attempt to imitate the habits of those who were successful. However, of course, at times you will unavoidably have to think and act on your own. In these circumstances, Machiavelli advises it is best to not be reckless.
I disagree with that. You should definitely, the statement on learning from those of the past is a good idea. But taking on their habits? Caesar's habits got him stabbed. No, it wasn't just his habits, of course, of what he was wanting to get done and the Senate not liking what he was doing, blah, 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 and he got stabbed. But still, do not take on the habits of people that lived centuries before, because you are built from your current societal stuff. They had different social norms. I'm probably taking this too literally.
Number 8. Don't increase the power of rivals. This seems obvious, but it's a mistake far too often made. Machiavelli used the then recent failed invasion of Italy by the King of France as a consistent example throughout the book. Instead of assisting smaller states against the larger Italian nations, he allied himself with the Pope and picked on smaller nations. The Pope took control of this and seized more power for himself, establishing his state as a dominant in the region. Further, the King of France made it even worse by allowing another rival into the region when Spain conquered Naples and Sicily. Number 7.
Okay, hold on. What time period is this? I don't know what fucking year this was written or taking place, but I think I kind of have an idea as to which French king they might be talking about. I'm going to actually slightly disagree with this. Now, of course, from an outside looking in, you could say that this was a poor play on the French side, but the French have a history of kind of, manipulating the church and kind of also getting what they want from the church, right? The French do have a history of doing that, of being able to manipulate and use the power of the church for their own gain. Hence the reason the whole Avignon popes existed. That's just an example of French authority, French power, the ability to they pretty much took over the church for a good while with the Avignon popes. So I think France siding with the Papal States is not a bad play, because also that puts you on the side of the church, right? And so the church is more willing to probably side with you on certain things because, well, you allied yourself with the Pope and helped the Pope bully some smaller Italian city-states. I think there the comparison with the French thing is perhaps wrong, but I definitely think raising up your rivals can be bad. But something got in my throat. I don't think that example used is an example of, at least of what Machiavelli used as an example of being bad. I don't agree.
When conquering new people, don't change too much. While it's certainly true that
that is complete facts. You see that with a bunch of successful empires. They don't really force themselves upon the conquered people. They allow the conquered people to keep their culture, and in some cases, like in the case of the Achaemenid Persian Empire, they, for the most part, allowed those underneath them to keep their culture and to keep their form of government as long as they still bowed to the King of Kings. And then Alexander would, of course, take this approach, and he would allow, as long as they didn't rebel, he'd allow them to maintain their forms of government and their culture, not really supplant them.
According to Machiavelli, one should take measures to ensure the loyalty of newly obtained subjects. He claims that the best way to do this is to keep their laws, taxes, and such things mostly unchanged unless necessary. He even recommends allowing them to form a local government for their interests so long as the government is not hostile but dependent on you.
Yes, and I think this is successful because you don't want, as long as people don't notice a change in life, they're not going to be mad. There's of course going to be small groups of people that are going to be mad, but I think for the most part, you could say the vast majority of people, as long as you don't make their life harder, they're not going to give a fuck.
Number 6. Without power, opportunity is wasted. Without opportunity, power is wasted.
Explain.
Machiavelli believed leadership was a combination of power and opportunity, and that a wise leader could find ways to both. Furthermore, he warns against obtaining either with fortune, reminding us that he who depends on fortune alone is ruined when fortune changes. Depend upon yourself. Number 5. We live so far removed from how we ought to live that he who abandons what is done for what ought to be done will destroy himself rather than prevail. Machiavelli believed what is done.
That he who abandons what is done for what ought to be done.
For what ought to be done will destroy himself rather than prevail.
My brain's too
Machiavelli believed that morality, goodness, and kindness were all nice ideas, but realistically, one must do what they have to do to survive, succeed, and grow.
Okay.
He cautions against trying to reform the system and encourages rather rising and succeeding in it, as change can often be dangerous, especially if it is forced.
Okay, you know what? I understand that now. I can see how. Yes. I think we see this a lot with the rulers. Those that seem to be the most successful are not the ones that go against the current status quo of government. They gain power by maintaining that status quo, by being a part of it and being successful inside of it and not changing it. Like, I mean, of course you can change it afterwards, but like, who is a good example? I can't really think off the top of my head. I mean, I guess we could point to American politics. We're specifically going to look at the left side because I think this is the easiest to see it. In regards to Bernie Sanders, he's definitely seen as an outsider. He is in American politics seen as far left. I don't really see him as far left in my opinion, but anyways, for American politics, apparently he is. He has never won. He's tried multiple times to try and win the Democratic presidential primaries, not succeeded ever. Meanwhile, the ones that have beaten him so far in the two most recent times, being 2016 and 2020, he just, though the two people that beat him are people that are definitely center of the line in regards to maintain status quo form of Democrats. And guess what? They beat Bernie Sanders, right? So that Machiavelli is completely on point here.
If you must change something, though, do it with strength, as armed prophets conquer, but unarmed ones fail. Number 4, support from nobles and support from the people are two different areas.
Yes, and I think this fact here is exemplified by Julius Caesar. Caesar was immensely popular with the military and with the people. Most specifically, the people. He had the support of the people without a doubt. They fucking loved him. However, he did not have the support of his peers, his fellow noblemen of Rome. Hence why he then got stabbed.
And either group could ruin you. The nobility looks to achieve their own interests, namely by suppressing the people. The people, in turn, are interested namely in not being suppressed. The nobility may threaten you to achieve their own interests, and the people will often revolt if they are too heavily repressed by you. In which case, the people are usually a better ally to have, for if you are hated by the people, the nobility will easily remove you, but if you are loved by the people, the nobility will have a greater difficulty dethroning you. Number 3, one must master the art of acting in the most efficient way, but looking as good of a person as possible. Machiavelli says that a prince should attempt to look like someone who is merciful, faithful, respectable, humane, religious, and generous, but behind the curtain may have to act in the exact opposite way to achieve results, as at times adherence to these values may not only be disastrous.
I mean, yeah, I feel like that's something we kind of, I feel like that's kind of how we view politicians anyways. They say nice things up front, but we know that they're fucking full of bullshit and they're doing the opposite behind the scenes, pretty much.
But it may come off as weakness, and Machiavelli warns greatly against the ruler who looks timid, frivolous, effeminate, changeable, or irresolute. The art of politics, therefore, in his opinion, is mastering both worlds. Number 2, it is better to be feared than to be loved.
That is his most popular fucking quote.
But if possible, go for both.
And what's funny about this quote is the amount of times in a history class we have debated that quote and whether or not we agree with it. I have always been on the side of disagreement. However, I can of course understand the success of being feared, right? Because the people, let's look at North Korea and the Soviet Union under Stalin. Those two are absolutely the leaders of both those nations were absolutely feared, and especially Kim Jong-un, the current ruler of North Korea, is absolutely feared by his people and everyone beneath him. Everyone in that country is beneath him, so all of the people beneath him fear him. They don't love him. Maybe his family might love him. Who knows? But like Stalin also had that immense. People are absolutely terrified of him, and in a sense, in how they can get things done, what they want to get done, it is effective to be loved, I would say. However, I think obviously for you to be remembered in history, if you want to be remembered in history, fondly, then perhaps you would like to be loved. If you're someone that has a huge ego and wants to, you know, like me, wants to be remembered positively, you're gonna want to be loved.
Machiavelli recognizes the importance of being favored by his subjects, but knows that too much leniency may invite trouble. Leniency based out of love for the people may suggest weakness. It may provide opportunities for rivals that may decrease your power, and therefore an element of fear is necessary in your ruling. Entreating others fails, using strength and force nearly always succeeds, and accordingly, if you have to choose between being loved and feared, it is better to go with being feared. And the number one point from the prince is at the end.
Oh my. That is the most popular one. Oh my god, I am stupid. This one I completely disagree with. Because in a sense what this quote also tends to mean, and what gets eloped into this quote, is that in order to achieve the means, in order to achieve the end, one of those means can potentially be genocide. And that is not okay. Whatever end there is does not justify genocide.
It justifies the means.
Yeah.
Machiavelli believes.
Well, unless of course it's a genocide of neo-Nazis. We don't need them around. We don't need neo-Nazis. So I guess, I mean, in that case, that's okay.
That to achieve efficient results, princes sometimes.
But in all other cases, genocide bad.
Have to play a little bit dirty. Playing dirty, in fact playing very dirty, is justifiable in his opinion as long as the end result is something favorable and good. However, he adds on to this that if you're going to commit an atrocity, it's better to do it all in one day than to prolong it. I.e., it would be better to execute 100 people in one day than to kill one person each day over 100 days. While each perhaps warrants the same results, technically the former secures your position with fear and reassures rivals that you will act when crossed.
I can
the latter gives the impression
that
you rule over people tyrannically, and that for their own security the people must depose of you. So these have been Machiavelli's top 10 tips from his very famous book, The Prince. It's certainly not his only advice though. I would highly recommend reading the book, and for more videos like this and
honestly, I don't know why I was kind of expecting some sort of satire, but this wasn't satire. This is actually, you know, good, knowledgeable video. It's definitely an older video of Fire of Learning, because he was very quiet in this, so I'm gonna have to boost him up in the editing. Boost him up as much as I can. If he's still quiet, then obviously when I upload this video, that's not on me. I have boosted his voice as much as I can in the editing process. I can't do any more. So, yeah. That was 10 tips from Machiavelli by Fire of Learning. I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.